We recently replaced our toilet with a dual flush. The previous one didn't flush very consistently, and no matter how much we cleaned the bowl, it had this wafting stench to it. A plumber had quoted me $250 for installation, but our buddy had installed his dual flush toilet himself. We ended up buying the same toilet as his and took on self-installation. We measured the rough-in and the toilet height and the distance of the current toilet from the wall just to make sure that everything was going to be a good fit. First things first, we had to remove the old toilet. So we shut off the water supply valve. We flushed the toilet to mostly empty the tank. And with a couple of sponges, we soaked up the remaining water and transferred it into a bucket. And the tank was gross. It had all these black deposits in it and this oily scum. I'm certain that's where the stench was coming from. Then we removed the bolts from the bottom of the tank that connected it to the bowl. And then we disconnected the water supply hose, which had some water left over, so we put the trash can beneath it. When we removed the tank, we carried it outside. That's where all the dirty garbage lives before we clean it to get rid of it. Garbage. Before removing the bowl, we had to wipe down the disgusting spot where the tank used to sit. To remove the toilet bowl, we had to cut through the caulk on the floor and then unthread the toilet bolts. It took a few passes cutting through the caulk for the bowl to wiggle free. Then we brought the bowl outside too to hang out with the tank. We stuffed a shop rag into the hole to prevent the stink from entering the house, and scraped off the old caulk and cleaned up the floor. At that point, I wanted to make sure that I double-checked the rough-in distance and that I didn't make some huge mistake, but everything was fine.
Wow, the toilet's gone.
So to install the new toilet, first we had to bring it upstairs and unbox it. We sorted through all the pieces and read the instructions. The instructions had literally everything we could need to do the job. The old toilet setup had this blue rubber gasket along the closet flange. I went outside to make sure that the old toilet didn't also have a wax ring before ripping that blue thing out. It didn't, so that was just a rubbery blue relic for the garbage pile.
Whoa.
We removed the rubber gasket and wiped down the disgusting closet flange before installing new toilet bolts. And then we applied the new wax ring to the toilet bottom and aligned it in place over the closet flange. Ash was muscling the toilet and I was carefully aligning the bolts. We made sure it wasn't too crooked before moving on. Then we took a long time to shim it. I wanted it perfectly level side to side and front to back. It took some real trial and error and a couple of stints in going downstairs to cut the shims down just right. Eventually we decided it was more important for it to be stable and not wobble than it was for it to be perfectly level. And we had gotten it close enough so that no one would ever notice. We attached the plastic nuts to the new toilet bolts and continued leveling and ironing out the wobbles. For the best result, it's good to tighten alternating from side to side to ensure that you remain fairly level and don't over-tighten one side. Then, to add the tank, again we just followed the instructions. Add the tank foam flange to the bottom of the tank, press down on the tank, and screw the tank down, alternating between the two bolts for even pressure. We kept tightening until the porcelain of the tank rested evenly on the porcelain of the bowl. And then we had to redo it because we forgot the plastic washers the first time. The toilet wasn't quite square to the wall at first. I used that plastic bolt driver that the toilet came with as a makeshift gauge, and we adjusted the angle of the toilet to the wall until we were satisfied. And then we could add the toilet seat. You have to apply upward pressure to the nylon nut as you thread in the bolt to ensure the bottom nut's flange seats securely. We tested that it was aligned right, and we just snugged it up. We reattached the water supply line and opened it back up. The toilet immediately started to fill, which was super exciting. It kept running after filling both the tank and the bowl.
Oh,
So we read the instructions and dialed in the fill height screw, and that rectified it.
great.
The second to last step was setting the tank cover on. It was the easiest step of the whole process. Then a final test of the wobbliness before we caulk it up. We bought some caulk and tried to use Ash's old caulk gun, but we didn't read the instructions thoroughly enough and didn't effectively break the seal in the front, which kind of wrecked the first tube's butt.
Did we break it?
Silicone was oozing out of the wrong side, and I figured it was garbage. Then I bought a squeeze tube thinking that I wouldn't have that same problem, but then I found out too late that I had bought the clear stuff, which wouldn't even hide the shims. Finally, I bought the right stuff. Squeeze tube, white color, but having no experience caulking prior, I kinda bungled it. So Ash jumped in and applied the caulk and carefully wiped off all the excess. And then it was done. It only took a couple of hours, and it saved us $250 and taught us some cool basics about our new toilet and the upstairs bathroom in general. We're super stoked to have a more water-efficient toilet. It flushes reliably, and it smells like absolutely nothing when the bowl is clean. A great learning experience and a great result.